Hey everyone, it's December 7th, 2022, and today was a very, very good learning day. I took four trades total, and we'll cover them. But yeah, very interesting price action and lots to discuss, really. So let's start off with our higher time frame look. I get the chart and see this kind of has been put in. This high right here. As far as I'm concerned, that's a liquidation mitigation. But as I look at it on a lower time frame, what we actually mitigated, we didn't mitigate anything very strong. Now we don't have to, but it was not a lower time frame primary. And I'm finding out that on these markets that we will typically mitigate the lower time frame primaries based upon the time frame you're looking at. So if I'm on a 1 hour, right, we want to be looking at something, say a 5 minute, 1 minute, 15 second primary, right? But if I'm on, say, the daily, then I want to be looking at something, say, like the 1 hour, the 30 minute, the 15 minute. I want to be seeing something more like the mitigation should be sort of relevant to the time frame. And that's what I'm sort of discovering lately is what's a I've heard you may have heard about strong highs and strong lows, right? I got taught that too. What's a strong high and what's a strong low? Well, it's based upon structure, right? So if you're on a 4 hour chart and they've taken structure, well, we can anticipate that this is now going to be a weak high because we're initiating higher prices, right? And then this is a strong low. That's what I was taught. But no one's talking about the strength of the actual primary, the strength of the order block itself. And that's what I've discovered is that if you actually analyze where you mitigate, yes, we're in that higher time frame zone, but if you actually look at it and you start to see, it actually it wasn't all that strong. And so what does that kind of mean? Well, you can analyze both your high and your low, your current high and your low. Well, if one's stronger and one's weak, what does that kind of tell you? You make up your own mind what that tells you. But for me, it kind of gives you a bias and direction, or at least gives you knowledge to say that, hey, this is cause stacked for a certain time. Whereas, let's say this one, this one might actually be the mitigation. Like you're able to understand that based upon what you're mitigating. For instance, I know that this is a strong mitigation. So if this is a weak mitigation and creating potentially could be creating cause, it doesn't mean we're going to run it right this second. It just means that it's got a different strength to it, and so one's going to win out the other. It always will. So anyway, I come to the chart and I see this. I've got this transitional, right? We pulled through, price pulls through it. This order block becomes unmitigated, which is becoming, in my terminology, a transitional order block. They mitigate once, pulled down, they come up for a second mitigation, and this could be the mitigation that pulls us away for a little bit, like lower prices, right? So that's what I sort of wake up to seeing. My initial expectation yesterday on the buy side is that we would come back into this sort of and the last couple of days actually was that we're going to come back, fill the IPA from here, which we have done, and that we were going to react from the inside bar. Sure enough, we've reacted. I'm not sure if that connected, but this one definitely did. We had our reaction, didn't break structure. Structure was up here, and it pulled down for some more, right? It actually took out the entire part of the structure there. So what does that show? Weakness on this part. This isn't a strong buy range. It couldn't hold. And where have we come down to mitigate? Into wicks, right? So we can actually say that this buy block, it's actually not a primary in my eyes, but it is a lower time frame primary, but it's not on this higher time frame outlook that I'm looking at right now. This is a 1 hour chart, and I'm not seeing this as a primary. I'm seeing this as just a range initiation break structure, right? And so I'm seeing now mitigation, mitigation, mitigation. So what's my bias? Well, from this point to this point here, I'm looking at shorts. because my anticipation is that this is a strong mitigation. I feel like we've mitigated out of this entire block now, which has led the way to what? One thing. Boom, lower prices. How low? I don't know. Perhaps back into here before we get a reaction that pulls us back up. Or it could just be for continuation. We don't know. Doesn't matter what they do. I'm just saying what I see. So that's my bias, right? I'm seeing this as a mitigation. I'm seeing a pull away. I'm also seeing a block here, a 1 hour block, and I'm thinking to myself, we could be looking for buys in around the here as well. It doesn't have to be this mitigation here. Remember, this is not a strong mitigation. So there's reasons for me to think that we could be coming back up for more, perhaps into this area. Look at this. This is a strong looking order block, right? A very strong full-bodied OB on a 1 hour chart. This could be an area where we're going to have a mitigation. And so this could be just stacking for that cause to pull us down once we come into the mitigation up here. Could be. That's as I see it. Now down to the lower time frame, and I'll show you what I saw. So we're going to go onto my buy side first, right? So I wake up and I see this. Probably news. What time was it? 7 to initiate 7:10. So I don't know. Something came out, right? Something caused it, obviously. And I wrote to myself here. I said we're potentially forming a buy primary. When they shoot price down like this, I've noticed a lot of times with say news releases. It's kind of like just to liquidate before sort of moving back upwards, right? It's rarely that it's actually to support the direction it was like created in, you know. It's usually a tricky play of theirs. So I see this as it's potentially forming a buy primary. So I'm just looking for buy primaries, right? I can't recall when I get to the charts, but probably let's just assume 7:30, right? So that's around sort of here, this kind of area here. So I see this form. And actually I did see this form live, so I was already at the charts. I see this form, right? This range here. And I was thinking to myself, this is a buy primary, right? We range, we initiate, we break structure. Very liberal use of structure, but nonetheless it is structure. On these sort of kind of wacky moves, when they kind of, you know, big chunky moves like this, I do find that any kind of wick can be used as structure. So range, initiation, break a structure. This was the range that came back in to take liquidity from beneath it, right? And then broke structure to the upside. Only just, but did break structure. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I just want to be looking for any kind of buy primary that forms in here. And I didn't get that. We actually just took out structure. So immediately when I see that, just based on, I reanalyze things, and just based on my structural break, wouldn't I really wanted the break to be here? You know, this is real structure, whereas this is sort of me trying to make it fit. And so I say to myself, this buy primary was weak because of the structure. I wrote it because through structure. And so that means only one thing. I didn't draw that very well, but it's, let's try and get, it's liquidity, dollar signs, right? That's what I'm trying to draw. And so this becomes liquidity. So as price is pumping down, right? We're here at this time. That's where you've got my thought process right now, right there. I'm seeing this RIMC, range initiation, potential breaker structure. And on the lower look of all this, down onto 5 seconds, where is it? Right here. We have a gosh, was it 5 seconds? Yeah, I think it was. So we had this range initiation, breaks of structure here, comes back in and pushes up. Buy primary on a very liberal lower time frame look. All right, so here's the range, here's that break in structure right there, that candle comes back in to this low and initiates away. So very liberal looking, weak looking buy primary, but nonetheless, if we get a reaction from it, I'm going to be very interested. What happens? We get a reaction from it, right? And so I've got this, this was the one that took liquidity, right? If you look over to this side, we've got this range. Where was it? Right here, we got this range initiation, breaks of structure. And so this block here became a biprimary because it was this area that took that liquidity from this candle and then landed into here and initiated away. So I'm thinking to myself, well, this looks like a great biprimary. And so I just took a risk entry and put it right here. I had a reaction out of here, right? This, as I got entered into it, it touched and it reacted. And so real quick, you could just be maybe thinking to yourself, well, why didn't you cover your stop on the below here? Well, again, I've talked about this as well. This is just wick. This is fast in, fast out. I don't really have anything that I need to cover. This is the bulk, the meat and potatoes. And so this is the kind of area that I was expecting the reactions from. And I got it. Great entry. It just didn't work out for me. But had the reaction, and I held until here. And then once I had a second reaction, I'm thinking to myself, because you always want to enter under liquidity, right? And I'm thinking to myself, well, this could be the liquidity. This is the order block. And so as we came in here and reacted up, and away and broke structure, I'm immediately break even. And I got popped out within seconds, right? A few seconds later, bam. So there's my first trade, break even. Second trade, right? So I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't mean this range is done for. It just means that this was sort of a liquidity build, right? This range here was actually just, again, for liquidity. We're right at origin. So let's see, can we form something else again, right? And I see this come down into here. And this was the most stupidest trade that I've had in a while, but it was okay. You know, it wasn't, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. But I'm thinking to myself, well, this is the last remaining part of the origin, and we've come down fairly aggressively here. And I've entered like this before, and I do so somewhat frequently, where I enter on a candle break. So I've got just on a 15 seconds, here's the high, here's the high, here's the high, here's the high. And then as soon as that high got penetrated, I entered. And then entered at market, small stop because I was expecting initiation and I got taken out straight away for a -1R, right? Full loss, which was a bummer, but it was a stupid trade to take in hindsight, and I can easily adjust my approach to minimize this kind of stuff. This is just not really how I really want to be trading. You know, if I'm trading $1 million account, this is not how I want to be trading, whereas this is more in line with how I want to be trading. But this is the shit right here. Okay, so this trade here is the bomb, in my opinion. And so let's look on a 5 seconds again. We're having to do this on micro scales because this movement is so freaking big. It's so large and aggressive that we actually have to tone down our time frame to adjust to the market conditions right now. And so anyway, let me show you what I'm seeing. Where was it? Maybe I'm looking in here actually. Doesn't look that great right now, but definitely the biprimary range initiation, no break of structure is really what I'm seeing right this second. I don't know if something printed and it has changed or if it was just my understanding in that very moment. I'm not too sure actually. Let's just take a little look. I mean, here's a range, an initiation. I think it was this one. So here's that range initiation, and I'm concluding this or this is a break of structure. And then this was the range that came back in to take the liquidity from beneath here, right? And forms that biprimary. And so I'm sort of just liberally, again, making sense of some of this. Then we get it again. This is the best one though. Range, initiation, break of structure, comes back in, creates that primary on a 5 second. And so that was really all I needed to see, because we not only did we get that break of structure up here after, but it was this one right here was the gold, because I was thinking to myself, we're potentially building, right? We're building biprimaries, building biprimaries. So what do we expect? Another biprimary to form. And so as I've gotten this look, remember this is my kind of bread and butter setup. Range initiation comes back in, takes liquidity, boom. As soon as it does, I think I just had put my limit, made sure my stop was safe under here, and off and away we went. And so a lovely trade. And so I honestly thought this was going to go to the moon. Like having such a lovely big reaction like that, I thought, oh boom, we're going to the moon. Sure enough, I see where that this was the last biprimary to form, and I'll show you. See this range candle in here? It's hard to see with this tool there, but this range candle right here, range initiation, break a structure, here's structure, comes back up, again creates that biprimary and pushes up. This is another excellent area to trade from, and had I been, like not in the trade already, this is the kind of thing I would have wanted to have gotten in on as well, or an area I'd have probably wanted to trade from, because having understood the biprimary situation with connecting, it just made sense to get in here. So as I start seeing us hanging around here, not really doing an awful lot, and also not putting in any new primaries because there wasn't really any kind of major structural breaks here, it wasn't really looking good on the buy side. So I did start analyzing on the sell side, because I got caught up in here. My brain is just sucked into all this, and I'm thinking to myself, you've got to start looking onto this, the sell side of stuff as well, because we could be initiating lower prices. It doesn't have to be buys just because we're creating some sell primaries, some lower time frame sell primaries. Remember, lower time frame sell primaries just means one thing. Just means that they're making lower time frame sell primaries weak. That's weakness. If you make a higher time frame buy primary or a higher time frame sell primary, then sure, the strength there is different, versus the lower time frame ones. The lower time frame ones could be just used to be creating cores. I know this. They're just RIMCs. Really is what they are. They're RIMCs. They're areas where you can expect that range initiation and a reaction. Doesn't have to be a break in structure. It doesn't have to be a continuation. They're RIMC, range initiation, mitigation, potential continuation. So over to the sell side. So here's that reaction, right? I'm into that nice, was it here? Yes, I'm in here. I got this lovely reaction. I'm up here, and then we're sort of ranging around. And so I start analyzing some stuff, and I go, I'm like, well, let's look at all the sell primaries that we formed. Boom, here's one, right? Range, initiation, break a structure, comes back in, takes all that liquidity, break structure. And break structure to the downside here as well. So this is a hardcore sell liquidity, sell primary. Here's a new one that gets formed, right? Range, initiation, breaking structure, comes back up, takes liquidity, breaks on itself, eventually breaks hardcore structure. We didn't know that at the time, but so I'm thinking to myself, this could be a potential for, a potential sell primary, but it is weak due to the break-in structure. And as we can sort of see now, what we're threatening to do is actually to push up past it. Whereas this one's got more strength, whereas this one doesn't, right? So what's my anticipation? My anticipation is that actually this range could be liquidity. This could be a liquidity range. Remember, what do we do? When we stack two primaries together, when we connect them, one could become liquidity, whereas the other will hold, or they could both become liquidity, right? Or they could just be connecting, and we're just going to keep connecting. There's only three things that can happen, right? So my anticipation is actually that this is just cause for some sort of mitigation in and around this area. Let's see what happens. We also remember, don't forget, we've got this as a weak high, in my opinion. So not only could this become cores, they could both become cores, and we could just be going long from here. We don't know just yet. So onto this trade. So I've got this sell primary, which I consider to be strong. I've got this sell primary, which I consider to be weak, and then another sell primary formed range, initiation, break structure, comes back up, takes liquidity, and forms in this area as this sell primary is forming. That's a strong indication that we're going to take lower prices and definitely going to take out this low, right? And so as I see that occur, and the moment we get taken here on this low and this is formed, I believe that's actually when I get taken out of my trade. It's literally, this is where I get taken out because I'm long all day. Let's put it in on the chart. Where is it? Right here. Here's my buy. Right? And so as soon as that breaks, that sell primary is formed, I'm immediately changing my character. And I'm like, okay, well, we're not buys anymore. We're definitely shorts, right now, at least. It just shows us that change in momentum. And so what am I thinking? I look at this whole block. I don't see any sort of sell primaries in it other than kind of this sort of block, which is the meat and potatoes. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm right here, right where I've drawn my thing here, right, the scribble here, I'm already thinking, where am I going to enter short? I'm already thinking it. I don't have to wait for this to get taken out. I don't have to wait for this to close. I'm already thinking, where the fuck am I wanting to go short? Here's where I want to go short, meat and potatoes. And then I see them drop down, push up, drop down, push up. And so what does that mean? Mitigations. I don't believe we're stacking cores here. I believe we're actually just mitigating ourselves all the live long way down. Because this is a sell primary it's forming, right? So what does sell primaries mean? Initiations. This should just become a reactive range, and rather, range initiation mitigation, rather than a liquidity grabbing area just right now. That could be for a future. So I immediately enter almost at open. I get taken in on the first sweep in and pushes away. And this is where things are going to start getting a little complex with my stop losses. But I think I actually played this picture fucking perfect. And on a different day, this is going to work out for me. I moved my stop loss 4 times. Once, twice, 3 times, a lady, 4 times right there, okay? So, I'm in my trade. I got my stop loss right here. Why have I got my stop loss right there? Because this is the last known range. Last known range initiation breaker structure. We didn't form any other range initiation, right? To this point here. By the time we're down here, there was no other RIMC. So I have to leave my stop. I moved my stop from the very top, from up here to here. I wanted just to cover this range initiation. Price comes up. Actually, let's talk about this first change, right? So this is my first one right here. Then this happens. Okay, let's move over. We get this, yes, okay. We don't actually need this arrow just right now. Here's what happens. We get a break in structure. Break in structure. Boom, comes down, bops straight back up. The moment it broke structure and came straight back up, I looked left and I'm trying to figure everything out. I'm like, why? Why did it just do that? Why aren't we initiating down? Why aren't we going for further prices? Why aren't we targeting more liquidity down here in these sort of lower areas? Why are you bobbing back up? Is it a buy primary? What's going on? I can't really figure out what the heck is happening here. So I immediately go break even, because in my head I'm like this. I don't want any more risk. The market's not doing what I think it's doing. I don't want to take risk on. I don't even this tiny little piece here. It's only half an R, right? 0.5 R is my risk at this point. But I'm like, fuck that. Why do I need to take risk if the market isn't behaving in the way I think it should behave? And so I immediately go break even at this point. At this point right here, because it broke structure and bobbed back up, and I did not like it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what was going on. And it was at that point, right about this, and I'm really trying to figure out things and go, what could be going on? And then I kind of understand, well, hey, this is actually a big old range, isn't it? Range, initiation, break of structure, comes back up, takes liquidity, mitigates, and forms a sell primary. What does that mean? Well, and this is why it's so good, because it's a connector, right? Wouldn't it connect? Like the whole story made sense. I was like, this would connect to this one connects to this one. Yeah? You see what I'm saying? So I'm like, but cell primary, cell primary, cell primary, they're connecting. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I go, okay, I can see that's happening. I can see that that's forming potentially. Um, and look, I even wrote it. Cell primary is potentially forming. Excellent area to do so because of the connecting nature. And so I changed my stop loss from break even because now I've got understanding, right? I've gathered understanding as soon as I start seeing this initiating away. And I go to myself, well, what could be going on? It could be that connecting. And so I go, I'm not willing to take too much risk. I don't want to go, put my stop loss back to minus 1R is what it would be, right? And so I go, well, let's just cover that high of the range, right? The RIMC here. So range, initiation, mitigate, break structure. And so I do. I move my stop loss. I move my stop loss to here. By around this area. I'm pretty sure it was actually right there. As soon as we came up, because I was thinking I want to allow one reaction in here, at least, and so in price stopped just before it. So I was like, okay, they're doing something to do with this range. Let's just see what it is, So I put my stop loss here. I said to myself, wrote this as well. Like this is like hardcore for me. I'll allow one reaction in here. I wasn't sure about this candle here. It broke on a 15-second, but it just went straight into an order block. So I wasn't too sure if that was the reaction or not. So anyway, I just left it because of my sort of confusion there. And then as we got that reaction and it started pushing away, I moved my stop loss from here, which covers this range, and I move it down just to cover the high. And I'm like, this could either be like a hero or stupid sort of move, right? It turned out that I became liquidity and got taken. But I was thinking to myself, this actually could be the hero play because look how I played this. I had my stop, here, would have totally gotten taken out, moved it to somewhere safe because I understood price action. And then as price was sort of going again in my direction, I adjusted it back down. So I'm actually really proud of the way I traded this whole trade. I'm really happy with it. I like the entry. I like everything about it. I like that I didn't get caught up in the buys and I didn't have buy goggles on and got sort of snapped by all of that. And so that was it. That was basically my trade. So what are we doing now? Well, I do anticipate us coming up to take this. I really do. It could be that we're actually moving up from in here. We've mitigated this order block, right to here. We've mitigated the order block. Was the mitigation very strong or not? I don't really, haven't really looked at that just yet because I started doing my videos and whatnot. But this is, I can see both ways really. I can see both directions and why. Again, we've had that strong mitigation and we're initiating lower prices. This is a liquidity mitigation. However you look at it, it doesn't mean they have to take the liquidity right now. And so I'm just following intention on the lower time frames, because that's all I can do. I can't guess. There's no point guessing. Guessing doesn't work. You have to sort of follow what you get given on the charts, and that's exactly what I was doing today. And so yeah, I didn't hit any 10Rs or anything really, but it was amazing learning day, an amazing trading day because of all of the intense action that we had here. And to understand some of this is incredible, let alone most of it. And I actually feel like I do understand an awful lot of it. If one day I'm going to get into a trade and this is going to happen where we're going to have these connectors and I'm going to hold out, I'll keep my stop, and this is just going to plunge into and give me a 10R or whatever R I am looking at the time. And when that happens, this will all sort of be worth it. You know what I mean? Like this right here is all this beautiful learning. I'm really proud of how I handled the whole situation. So I'm doing pretty good. I hope you are too. On the buy side of things, I was definitely looking at this. We've got a buy primary form in here. This is a very weak low time frame buy primary. I'm just going to continue. I'm just going to look at it as a range initiation. because I want to be, this is on a, say, on a 1 minute chart. These aren't really breaks of structure. You do have to be a little bit cautious with this. I mean, look at this range in here. It's not exactly anything special on a 1 minute, but we could also say that this is a buy primary, right? It's taken liquidity from this kind of weird looking range, and prices initiated up. What's my anticipation? My anticipation would actually be for a price to come back into origin right now, because this is the best buy primary that exists. And so if we can get back into here, into buy primary, and then start to see range initiation, breaks of structure, they come and take it, and then come back in here and do all the same thing again, we're in, right? It's just all about that liquidity grab. That's my trading day. Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Aloha, and speak to you guys soon.